I'm Paul.
And I'm Kenny. And this is EWPK.
I get a kick out of that every time.
I don't know why I laugh every single time.
I mean, it's just funny.
I want to do a shot when I spit something.
The funny thing with that shot was it was what do they call it? The Stanislavski method, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. I had real coffee there.
You're actually doing it.
I really spit it right onto my keyboard. Right. Although I had my keyboard covered.
That's taking the art to a true form, Paul.
I know. Well, anything for art.
That's right. Anything for the show.
That's amen, brother.
Yeah.
We are committed.
We are committed. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, actually. I'm trying to deal with this semi-retired life thing, and so far,
how's that going?
I'm not traveling to a lot of places that I ordinarily would have. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And in the meantime,
you missed some of it, or
no, not really.
Good.
Ultimately, I get to see you this way for now and then in person, and that's more fun.
Yeah.
But it's just like instead of 20 conferences a year of traveling, I'll travel to 6 maybe this year or 7, something like that, which is still a lot, but not a killer amount. And I get to be home. I get to hang out. I get to do PPN and see, I even look at that.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah, merch.
Your logo merch.
We got merch. And the network itself is actually doing really well.
Terrific.
We're launching our 9th show. I think it's a week after next. We have a 10th show in the hopper for a little shortly after that. And the big news is that this is the 15th anniversary. This year is the 15th anniversary of CRM Players. And as a result of that, on November 11th to 12th at the Atlanta Tech Village in obviously Atlanta, we're going to have a live event celebrating that. And it's going to be called IRL 2024, right?
Nice. I like that.
I know. I actually like titling things better than even doing them.
Yeah. Wow, that's 15 years.
Yeah. We've been doing the Players for 15 years, me and Brent. So sparked the network. And now you and I can have maybe 20 years. By the way,
I'd like to do that.
Our guest is here, which we won't say anything until we bring her on. Although
she or he,
her camera is currently off. However, I don't think you can see it. There we go.
Oh, you guys are in for a treat.
I am so excited.
Yeah, she is fantastical. And out of this world. She's really out of this world.
Wow, not bad. Not bad. Not bad for us people. Like,
have you?
It's probably a dad joke of some kind.
Oh my God! I was just going to tell you a dad joke. Have you heard about the restaurant on the moon?
No.
Great food, but no atmosphere.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. This is these 3 or 4 guys who do a million dad jokes on usually on like Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok. But one guy, like, they sit there deadpan and do the jokes, and it's not like the ones where you see celebrities competing to see who's going to make the other one laugh. These guys are just like that's what they do. They do dad jokes. And there's a lot of really, really, I mean, I guess I would have to do granddad jokes. Oh my God.
Do you have a dad
No, you
joke?
know what? I can't deadpan it the way these guys do. I mean, they are so deadpan. I should just put links in. They're so good at it.
I've seen them. They are very funny. Is this the one where they were like out? They were like
Yeah, they sit outside. They always
hunting or something. Yeah,
they drink
yeah.
from empty cups and
Yeah.
things. Right. And then the one guy has the mustache, and who just he's the one who just sits in his chair with a mustache. The whole thing is great. Those guys.
So I don't know if you've heard, in LA, which is where I am right now. Everybody's getting married. Guys are getting married to girls. Guys are getting married to guys. Girls are getting married to girls. Well, in this one wedding, two antennas were getting married. And the wedding was okay, but boy, the reception was awesome.
Oh. Wow, you're like an expert dad joke guy.
I am a dad, so
I'm gonna buy you a lawn chair.
I could be on that show. My dad, who was a dentist in San Diego, was written up many times for using humor in dentistry. In fact,
Really?
had a sign that said, "The dentist does the jokes," because patients would come in and they're like, "Oh, Dr. Lauer, I got a joke for you." It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa! The dentist does the jokes. So I come from a history of storytelling and bad dad jokes. So,
Yeah, now I'm gonna have to keep up. I'm gonna literally have to memorize some of these guys' jokes.
yeah, you should. We
They're they're ridiculous. They're so good.
I know they're pretty funny. It's partly the delivery, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so great.
the deadpanning is unbelievable. Every now and then, one of them cracks up.
Yeah,
Every
just
now and
because
then, once in a
it's
while.
too funny or it's too
I know
stupid.
they're pretty awesome. Oh, listen, got to tell you one more thing, because this is something I need you to consider. This is a little different than you would think.
Okay.
Oh, you remember? So I've done, of course, or I had been doing for 19 years, the CRM watch list, and
Yes.
got industry recognition in a pretty substantial way, and it required a lot out of the companies who submitted. So I sunset it last year, but at IRL 2024, we're going to be doing a CRM watch list grand finale, and what this is, it's very different. We're going to give out lifetime achievement awards, and these are all. But I'm going to tell you how these are going to happen briefly, because I'd like you to be a judge, even though it's mostly analysts who are judges here.
Oh, I'd be honored.
There's like 29 industry analysts who are in so far. The idea would be like, but they're not going to be just a kind of award like best customer engagement platform or something like that. Oh, that might be one, but it's going to be like best executive assistant, like favorite executive, like people like that. Well, they don't get any damn recognition ever, and they
don't
get the recognition they deserve, right? And
Love it.
So it'd be people like that too, right? Who'll get recognition by name, and so the judging process is going to be twofold. Analysts and influencers who will pick 3 finalists for any categories they feel capable of doing, and then the general population, so to speak, will be able to pick up to 2 finalists. The analysts and the influencers, I'll just trust their judgment, and they don't have to justify their top 3 finalists, which they'll pick. The population, people who do, they're going to have to justify it. So it'll be up to 5 finalists, and the analysts and the influencers, not the population, will pick the top 3. Will aggregate, pick the top 3 to 5 out of the total tops 3s and 5s we're getting, and then the analyst will be asked to pick a winner. And then I'm going to basically, because I was the only judge for 19 years, I'll still be the ultimate judge in this one, but I'm biased. So this is one where if I pick I'll say, oh, well, this company wins 80% of all the awards, and the analyst said, no, you're the only one who thinks that, I'll go, we're probably right. Right. So, right. So but I'd like, if you're open to it, could you be analyzing companies and people, right? I'd like you to be a judge.
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay.
I'd love to.
You're in.
Count me in. That's great.
All right.
That sounds really fun. Okay.
So you
So
have anything? You don't have anything today, huh?
no, I'm not, because
Where are
I
you?
ended up having to travel. I'm in Los Angeles. We're filming a commercial and doing some other things. So I'm kind of at this studio right now. I was hoping to get to the hotel so I could get a drink, because I feel very naked without one on this show. But I knew I could count on you to pull us through,
Well, this
Paul,
one actually has a story with it. Which is
you
a good
did,
story.
and you did. So
So
what are you
this,
drinking? And how do I get?
all right. So this being drunk, by the way, or being I'm drinking this in the proper glass. I don't want to say being drunk in a
Being
proper
drunk?
glass. Then my head would fall into the glass 2 seconds later. This is actually an agave spirit. Okay. Now it's not mezcal. It's mezcal-ish, but it was actually made by a company called Passion Spirits. It's got a great name, blasphemous, right? It's BLASFEMUS. It's the 11-year-old. They have a 7, 11, and 17-year-old. So story behind it is really interesting. As you may or may not know, Zoho, which is one of my favorite companies in the world, because it's a technology company that's actually more of an infrastructure company, which is actually committed more to public service than producing software. It's $1 billion company out of India. They have a thing called transnational localism that they do, and they go to less populated areas where there might be a lot of talent, and then they not only do they find the talent, train the talent, pay the talent and their families while they're training them, but they get themselves involved in the actual infrastructure needs of the city and cooperate with the city or town or whatever it is that they're in. And they do this in India pretty extensively. They're building hospitals, medical instruments. They're building farms. Again, this is a software company.
Yeah,
all right, they're building
unbelievable.
farms and working on sustainable grains. In the U.S. or North America, they have one town in Canada, and it's in Ontario somewhere. I'm forgetting the name of the town, though. It's one I'd never heard of, which is not surprising. They have one in Mexico, and then they have one here in the U.S., which is McAllen, Texas. So we were in McAllen, Texas, about 2 weeks ago for an analyst summit, and there's a local chef there who's actually, I guess, nationally famous, named, I think, Joel Delaney, who he's the guy who does all the Salt restaurants. The one's called Salt.
Oh, yeah. Right, I know.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
So he cooks for us throughout the whole 3 days. And there's a booth there at one of the outdoor things, and there's this little booth, and they're doing tastings of this spirit. The guy who's running it is Leo. Leo is the head. I think it's Leo. He was the head of Passion Spirit, and he's it's a little local thing that they've been making this spirit for a while. And I tasted it. He said they can't call themselves a mezcal because denomination of origin, and that means they only in Mexico and only using whatever specific cactus they use is the only people who reasonably can call themselves mezcal. Same like champagne and so on and so forth, and cognac and so on. So this is an agave spirit. And I have to tell you something. I'm not going to get in, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to get deeply into it. I'll just take a sip and have people look at the color, which is really very attractive. This is the 11-year-old.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
It's made of 2 different agave cacti. And it's really, look, here's my deep analysis of it. It really tastes good.
Get ready.
Right? Okay.
Get ready, listeners.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone wants to, they have the 7-year-old, for some reason, they won't ship to Virginia. I have no idea why, but the 11 and the 17 do ship to Virginia. Don't ask me why. But so I ordered the 11 and the 17. It's not cheap. I mean, the 11's like $81 and the 17's like, I want to say 99 or something around there.
Oh, it's not bad.
It's absolutely worth it in both cases. And again, you'll find with the 7, with the 11, and with the 17, while the mezcal-ish smokiness is there, and and you would probably identify it as a mezcal. Each of them is very distinctly different in terms of what they taste like. But I highly, highly recommend that you go and grab a bottle. And if you want to, just get a hold of me and I'll put you in touch with them. And you can be off and buying the agave spirit of this little distiller in McAllen.
Yeah, we should support the little ones. And agave is gluten-free. So for all our gluten-free
so it's
friends.
Healthy.
Yeah, so it's healthy. It actually
fantastic.
It actually is lower in calories and sugar than a lot of other alcoholic beverages.
Gluten intolerant.
If you need,
take note.
Yeah, if you need reason for all those gluten diabetics, this is the one. This is the right one for you.
So
that's terrific.
See, we have an amazing guest today.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you, you want to get over to the other studio before we describe her and bring her on, or you want to do that now and we'll go over to the other studio?
No, I think let's go over to the other studio.
All right. Well, that takes us like 3 hours of driving, 3 hours to drive there, but through the magic of time and time.
I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run.
It'll seem really fast. All right. So I will, we'll just run our segment intro and then we will see you over there in just a few seconds.
Run it.
Wow, look how different everything looks.
Yeah, well, we try to keep things similar. We don't want to disrupt things too much. So both the studios look very similar for me.
So you want to sort of tell everybody about our amazing guest?
Yeah. So I can't actually remember when I first came in contact with this incredible person, but she is not only incredibly entrepreneurial, but has created such a footprint, such a distinct impression on space travel and what we're doing in that area. I got completely captivated by what she was doing and how she was doing it. She runs her own company. She has some very big news that is incredibly relevant right now, which is super exciting. And on top of all that, she also knows several of the good friends of the show, Paul. Which like Ray and Ray Wong.
No, Ray, God's sake.
Which we know, and Alan Bohm as well. And but on top of all that, she is just an incredible person and a really incredible mom. So I think without further ado, let's bring on and everyone welcome Chantelle Baier.
Hey there.
Oh boy, Chantelle.
Hi there.
So much energy.
I've been literally stoked to meet you for now, ever since Kenny mentioned your name and then told me about you. How have you managed to accomplish all of this so quick?
Just overnight, right?
It's an overnight multi-year success.
That's right, exactly. 15 years crunched into a few.
That time discontinuity thing I was talking about.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, Chantelle, we're so excited to have you on. I mean, I was lucky enough to just see you in person relatively recently, but I think before we talk about kind of who you are and kind of what you stand for and kind of the most amazing things that you've done, I do want you to bring everyone up to speed on what just happened and what is happening right at this moment. That is so notable and monumental. that if you do know about it, you'll be especially interested to know Chantelle's part, because I was part of it. I heard the cheers. They welcomed her on stage, pre-launch and all this stuff. And if you're not aware of it, you're going to learn something here. It's going to be pretty amazing about what's going on right now. So tell us, Chantelle.
So America is now back on the moon.
Yes!
We have landed on the South Pole. And
there you go. Everybody's happy.
And a part of this mission, my company 4Space is now the first female-owned company on the moon. And we were able to install the first ever authorized artwork at Jeff Koons' moon phases. We have 125 statues now placed at the South Pole of the moon. It becomes a historical land site. Yeah, we just got our first photos today, where it's placed kind of, looks like a couple feet from the moon, tilted over. But you know what? It worked out in our favor, actually, because one of the things when we had to decide where to place it on the outside of the lunar lander, we wanted to place the artwork just so that it wouldn't get scratched by the lunar soil, and so that we would get beautiful images. And we had no power, so we didn't have any type of a switch to be able to place it down on the lunar soil. So it was either choose the foot of the lunar lander and get scrapped and full of dust, or put it on the side. And so then when it tipped over, it kind of was the universe way of saying, okay, here's a beautiful image, as close as you're going to get to the soil. Yes, it's beautiful. And so wait.
Just so we understand, so when the lunar lander landed on the surface of the moon, it fell over a little bit.
Yeah, so apparently they had one of the legs broke after the landing gear. And so then it tilted, and it tilted slow enough that it didn't do really any damage to any of the other science instruments on board. Yeah, so we're excited because most of the instruments were NASA instruments, mapping, sensor detectors, laser, blah, blah, blah. And ours was passive payload. And one of the things that NASA said to me was, you know what? This is time that we celebrate art as an extension to human experience. And just, art is just as important as science. And so I was really proud of that because, you know what? We have been to the moon before. And never, ever have we been able to brand anything on the moon or do anything commercialized. So this is the first experience where we've got to place art. We get to tell a story, and it's opening up the doors now to marketing, and doing like incredible things and pushing the boundaries of what is possible.
It's going to be interesting to see moon tourism, to have an art gallery to go to.
That's right. We're going to set up a bunch of art galleries, and hopefully we'll have some videos playing up there next, some movies, So we have a second mission in about 8 to 12 months, and then third and fourth. So we're looking to fill up those payloads and see what type of things we should put on the moon next.
So how do you even? Okay, so you have some time till it's payload number 2.
Yes.
So how do you and about when before you actually launch do you figure out what's going into that payload?
Sure. We kind of know where we have to analyze a few things. We have to see where are we going on the moon and what makes sense. When we first started IM1, we were actually going to go to the equatorial zone, and then we got repositioned to the South Pole. So the temperature ranges are different, and that would have affected a few different projects. So we have to keep that in mind. And since this is a place where astronauts are going to go in the future, there's going to there's ice there, water. What are the types of things that make sense now for a brand? So let's think about a beverage brand or something. Tied in with water, ice. How can we help them to maybe get involved in some of the science experiments while doing branding? Something fun like that.
What about the NBA?
Hey, right?
Chantelle and I tried.
So much fun.
We tried very hard and got got down the road a little bit to try to enroll the MBA in doing something fantastical on the moon, and including some payloads. So maybe we can, if any of my MBA friends are listening, maybe we can, now that they've seen, right,
That's
that
right.
it's possible.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing too. Is we hadn't been back to the moon in 50 years, and so people didn't really understand this is really happening. And now it's kind of okay. Now we can do it. No, no problem.
I mean, if I was the NBA, even then, without even understanding that, I would have thought, wow, that's a really great idea for everything. I mean,
it was.
aside from the fact that, think about it this way, the most popular basketball movie of all time is Space Jam. And if you think about it, it literally takes place in space, right? So you would think, even from the standpoint of, the love of cartoons and movies, they would think that there was some brand value in that, aside from the fact that to be the first major sport to be on the moon, holy cow, that's just like obvious sense to me.
It was obvious to us too, but
yeah. And now maybe that we have the credibility of it's done, and now maybe that's something, because you're right, sports on the moon is incredible. And first mover advantage as well.
Oh my God! I mean, I'm going to go talk to the Yankees about it, because I'm a huge Yankees fan. So I'll see if they're willing to do it. They have the money, that's for sure.
And so you're right. Instead of spending $6 million for a 30-second Super Bowl ad, now we can place an ad on the moon, and you're going to get global recognition for that.
Can you imagine placing an ad on the moon that somebody could view from a Celestron telescope, right? So, I mean, it would be phenomenal.
Chantelle, doesn't it have a camera of some sort? Like, tell us a little bit about the actual payload, the box, and the cube.
So originally, our payload that we had, it had power, and it had a camera inside and everything.
Oh, that's right.
And then for the first mission, we were constrained on our power consumption, so we chose a passive payload. So our camera is actually placed 51 inches above where we have the cube placed.
Got it.
But we look at each project differently and what are the needs. And so for the second one, we will want power. IM already announced that they want more cameras, and 2 was not enough. But now they know they've learned a lot from that first mission. The second mission is pretty much the same, but they get to ramp everything up a little bit better. And so they've been working on that before this one even launched. They've already made adjustments.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted you to clarify the company IM, just so people understand what immutable machines.
I can kind of tell you, and I think Paul, I think I can tie in kind of both questions here. So intuitive machines, they're a space company, lunar lander company that started, and they won an award for the CLIPS program. And CLIPS is the commercial payload services and commercial lunar payload services. And when they won their award, I reached out to them. So they had nothing built at all. It was just, I knew what we could do, right? And I knew that it was filled with NASA science projects, but I knew they were a private company. And I said, what can we send to the moon? That literally is my email to them. What can we send? And then, looking back, that discussion was so normal for me, but reading it out loud seemed kind of crazy. And, hey, what can you put on the moon? And they responded and said, here's the weight mass you can use and stuff. And so it took a lot of vision to see what is possible, and to know that they're typical, very metal, very, NASA standard machines. So it doesn't look beautiful. by any means. It still looks very much like a normal spacecraft. But what we want to do is eventually bring brands in, bring companies, bring designers that specialize in architect, and and make it look beautiful. And so this one was a real first one, real wild, shot in the dark, because we didn't know, will a brand like NBA understand the potential? And we were very lucky to bring the artist Jeff Koons on board, world-renowned artist, and he just fell in love with the idea. He's always loved the moon, and the way that he's able to communicate so eloquent the story and the connection of humanity and why it's important for culture to be on the moon. And so it was just super fun, and a lot of research. So we did a lot of science and research with the materials. Everything had to be space grade and protect the art against the space radiation. And when we got moved to the South Pole, we also had to deal with extreme temperature ranges from minus 230 degrees Celsius to plus 100.
Oh my!
And so
God.
when you're mixing like a clear material with the steel and all these different materials, the thermal expansion rates are all different. So it could pop at any moment, and we had to test all of that, thermovac tested here on Earth, and to know that it was exposed to the vacuum of space, pretty much from the atmosphere around Earth all the way to the moon and landing, is incredible. That little box clear made it that whole way.
Did he create?
And NASA said to us, that they would have used titanium. It's easy, reliable, less testing, and we said it was very important for us to see what's inside of that cube, and you can see each moon perfectly, each little statue, and that will open up the door for marketing. It will open the door for artwork. It will open the door because now you can start expanding the possibilities of, and we're pushing those boundaries. If it was up to NASA, they just want to get there. They don't really care about the beauty and the design. Yeah.
So with Jeff Koons, so you said, okay, Jeff, here are the materials that you have to work with.
Yep. We provided a list and all the paints and colors too, because off-gassing of any of the paints is a very serious problem in the space industry. I give a good example of a pen that was sent on board the space station and almost killed the astronauts. Some of the gases leaked out. So things that you typically that aren't dangerous here on Earth can become very dangerous in space. And so if you have one particle that can want to knock out one of the sensors, and so we have to test everything. We have 24 karat gold inlaid into our project, and Jeff Koons' moon phases name and stuff, and all the names of the historical figures are 24 karat gold. We had to test everything there, thermovac test it. And so the artist really got to learn the scientific process too. And so we are pushing these boundaries between both of these. He has his discerning eye with the aesthetic, has to be perfect, and then it has to meet all the vibration testing and everything with NASA. And we had to test the artwork, and I will say that was the most nerve-wracking day ever, when we had to shake this most expensive art to 3 times what the rocket is. And Kenny, you were at the launch.
I know.
Right? Like
it's crazy.
You see it just shoot to the sky, and then like 30 seconds later, you hear this blast, and it just boom. And like we had to survive 3 times like that just in case.
No kidding. That's amazing.
So it looks like a simple box. When you see it, you're like, oh, it looks very simple, but a lot of testing and design went into that.
Amazing.
But go ahead, Paul. Ask your question, and then I have one
follow-up. So this is sort of a really specific follow-up. So would you test, for example, and just picking out of a hat here, 14 karat gold or 18 karat gold against 24 karat gold, just to see how it would react, I guess?
Absolutely. And then we tested also not only from the aesthetic point of view, what the lighting will look like and the different colors. We also test the depth in which we need to etch it into the materials so that it will stay better. And then we also have different adhesives that we blend into it, or and say, okay, we like this process, and then all the different sizes of fonts and stuff too. So we make sure.
You got to give Jeff Koons a lot of credit on this one too. The fact that he figured out how to retain. I mean, he is like an incredible sculptor. He really is. I mean, I know his work, and the fact that you said, "Hey Jeff, we would love you to do sculptures on the moon," but here are the 44,000 things you have to be aware of while you're building these sculptures. I mean, that's a real feat of not just science, but and artistry, but just I didn't even know what to call it. I guess insane creativity to figure out how to make it that still a work of art with all those
Yeah.
constraints.
Oh yeah. And we push the boundaries on every little
That is
detail.
so cool.
So when you thought
But
okay, go ahead, Kenny.
No, I was gonna say it's exactly that you've done that and we're successful, that have now created the diligence and the ability and the confidence, right, to go to another brand and say, look, we're going to help make sure that whatever you do is successful, because look what we've done. We know how to do this. So you just have to worry about kind of what you want, and whatever will help to make sure you're successful in that. And to play that level of authority in this new space should open up so much opportunity for 4Space, by the way, which is your company, right? Which is the number 4 SPACE, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
everything 4Space. So whether it's Kenny 4Space, or and showing the reason why we're developing new technologies, commercializing space, and thinking about it. What can we use here on Earth? So with the Jeff Koons Moon Phases project, we knew that Intuitive Machines was going, and we knew that they were testing NASA instruments, and we knew that they weren't coming back. So we knew that whatever we added to that was just an extra bonus. We weren't going to harm the moon in any way. We wanted to make sure that what we get out of it will help the world. So the artwork proceeds go towards Doctors Without Borders. We donated one of the sculptures to AMFAR. So there's some really great reasons why we did artwork on the moon, and every project that we'll do in the future will continue to make sure they're pushing the boundaries of science, making sure that it's sustainable, and making sure that there's commercialization, because we need return on the investment to help support the space industry and to support our clients and our partners. So that's kind of because right now there aren't really any rules or regulations when you develop for the moon. We just have to make sure they pass all of the NASA standards. We have to make sure it passes everything so that we can safely fly it on SpaceX rocket or Blue Origin, whatever. And so it's our responsibility right now to make sure we have kind of this whole circular way of thinking, and pushing into the second, third, and fourth missions. That's where we'll get really fun of what are the huge marketing campaigns that we can allocate to each project. And I think the brands will really utilize this in a global, off-world way, to get new attention and show the world, hey, we're now thinking really sustainable solutions that will help the world by utilizing lunar technologies.
So how'd you get there from, so were you born in Saskatchewan?
I was. Yep.
Wow. You actually, I mean, I'm married to a Newfie for 42 years. So during my life, I've been in oddly enough, every single province of Canada except Northwest Territories and PEI for some reason. I don't know why I haven't been there, because I've been in Newfoundland, New Brunswick, I mean, everywhere. And I love Canada. It's like I've been in Saskatoon specifically.
Oh, yes.
Right. Well, I also know my favorite Canadian politician. I don't know what your political leanings were, but I was kind of NDP, and my favorite politician of all time was from Saskatchewan. It was in Canada anyway. Was Ed Broadbent. I love that guy. Right.
Wow.
So I know he became a broadcaster later.
Yeah,
so I really, and Saskatoon was pretty small when I went there. It was in the early 80s maybe.
Beautiful.
But it's a really nice little town, and it's a good province. The people are wonderful. So how did you get from being born in Saskatchewan to landing Jeff Koons' artwork on the moon.
This sounds like a
Seriously.
very wild conversation. And how does that happen? Somehow I knew when I was 7 years old I wanted to go to the moon. And what was that journey? I wasn't too sure, but I started out in geology. I knew I wanted to study the moon, and I had a nice scholarship that afforded me to go to university. And from there, I actually moved to Toronto and studied fashion design.
Really?
And it was kind of through that process that I recognized the opportunity in the space industry. I recognized that we were, beginning to study science and stuff in Mars, and yet NASA funding kept getting cut. And I noticed in the fashion industry, there's a ton of money in there, and the entertainment industry. Why aren't we pumping money into the science industry through that portal? So I kind of recognized that early. I also signed up for an internship under Dr. Chris McKay over at NASA Ames, and he's like the head of Mars exploration, and he really encouraged me to start up my company 4Space because of my diverse background. He knew I had the technical capabilities, and he knew I had the entertainment design aspect. And he also was the scientist that told Elon Musk to get into Mars exploration and start up SpaceX. So I feel quite honored because he recognized that right when, as NASA's the red tape began to lift, and these opportunities for private companies to really thrive exists. And NASA really supports companies such as 4Space because we're able to just pay for our projects to get to the moon. Whereas NASA process, you have to write a proposal, get it approved, get your funding. So NASA can get their experiments through companies like SpaceX accomplished a lot faster and cheaper. Mm-hmm. So it's a really nice pipeline. So we set 4Space up as this pipeline to be able to commercialize space in a different way, utilizing space technologies that were developed at NASA, utilizing technologies that corporations have, and combining them. So it took about 15 years to get to the moon, and a lot of experience, a lot of conversations. I sit on the board of the National Space Society. Kenny was actually a speaker at my Space Settlement Summit, and
I was.
It's fantastic.
It was an honor. Yeah.
Yeah. You bring in outside of the box thinkers. And let them explore the space industry. So we don't want to leave everything up to an engineer at NASA, or we want to start bringing in other thinkers, because as we commercialize the moon, as we start to actually travel there, we need the comforts that we have here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that line of thinking, I've actually seen it even in the tech industry. There was this company years ago called Infor, and they decided that they had to start looking at the look and feel of things in a whole different way. So they hired 100 people, and not a single one was from the tech industry. They were all like the head designer of Michael Kors, people like that, the creatives, 100 creatives. And and I asked them, okay, so what's the thinking here? And they, what their answer was? We can always train people on tech, right? He said, but creatives, they think differently. And they created an internal agency, and it was an actual agency, revamped everything they did, ranging from their software actually interface to the building that they literally were in New York, where they redesigned and redeveloped it. They screwed up later on a bunch of other things, but on that they were pioneers, and it's the best way to think. Think that outside the box gets so much done because it's fresh. It's new. Yet it's actually established at the same time, right? So it's not like you're operating from a vacuum. You've actually got resources you can draw on, even with that thinking. So I think that's fantastic what you're doing.
Thank you.
Chantelle, who do you look for inspiration? And it doesn't have to, maybe there are people in the space like McKay or whatever, but just in general, who inspires you?
I pull inspiration, I think, from everything that I'm surrounded by, and I think that I developed that from when I was a kid. My mom threw me into everything you can think of. I was in figure skating, piano, boxing, ballet,
Oh,
and I think that really helped me in this kind of diverse way of thinking, and not just linear. Definitely, I don't think a linear way, and it's been challenging trying to explain that to my family through most of my life. They're like, "Oh, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" And try telling them that you're going to the moon. Nobody
Yeah,
believed me, right?
yeah, yeah.
And a lot of my Uber conversations, when I'm traveling in Uber, I think that my drivers thought I was crazy too. Um, so, and another good thing, I spent half of my life thinking outside of the box, only to develop the first box on the moon, first clear
Yeah,
box, right?
that's
I have to
awesome.
laugh at that
Clear.
because
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, I look at it seems like it's kind of a magical time, a magical moment here in the space, in the thinking about space. I mean, now we're back on the moon, right? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk around Mars and everything. Um, and I think many people felt like it had been forgotten, or NASA, I know, trying to figure out how to do things privatizing things coming in, and that being a whole new way of doing them. Um, um, I know there's been layoffs in different bigger companies that have been associated with space kind of. So maybe you could just help us. Like, I'd love to get your perspective on kind of where we are right now in thinking about space. And I know that's probably a big topic, but and how you personally feel about how we're thinking.
Sure. I think that everybody needs to understand that they can participate in the space industry. It's $1 trillion industry
shoot.
and it
Mm.
brings hope. I think that there's a lot of opportunity right now. We have the CLIPS program that will be going back to the moon over the next few years. We have the Artemis program that's going back to the moon. And why we like the moon is because it's pretty close to the Earth. So if we travel there, something goes wrong, it's a short journey back. Mars is a little bit further out. Elon's really pushing for Mars, and he really loves that, and we encourage that too. My focus right now is just the moon because I have contracts, and I know that very easily. But I think everybody should be getting excited about space. If you're a lawyer, if you're a dentist, if you're a musician, artist, I think there's room for you. And I think companies like 4Space will help you, get into the industry, know kind of how to navigate, because that territory is a little bit challenging right now. So, if you're working with a large enterprise brand, sometimes it can take 2 years to get them up to speed, get the right people on board, and know what to do. But there's so much research. There's so much branding capabilities now, and I
Yeah.
think it's such an exciting time. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the intuitive machines, like, congratulations to everybody there, because that just opened the door for so many more opportunities now.
You know, you said something just in passing that is actually, if you think about it, completely astounding. When we were talking about why the moon, and you said if something goes wrong, it's just a short trip back.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
That's Chantel's world.
I
That's
was about to say, a short trip back for me is like going to my neighbors next door and coming back here. Right, a short trip back from the moon.
Yeah.
That, like,
Everything's relative, Paul.
I know. Instead, all right. So, listen. One last question before we have to wrap. All right. So, and again, no one here is going to hold you to. Well, actually, this is the penultimate question. So, two. No one's going to hold you to anything here. But if you could choose payload 2 today, what would it be?
So I can give a hint to
Okay.
what payload
Oh.
2 will be.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be very sustainable, and it's going to represent growth on the moon.
I got one of two possible ideas, but there's no point in me saying anything about them since you can't tell me. So
I can't fully tell you yet.
no, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's really
That's
That's
great.
interesting and fascinating. Okay, so this is the actual last question. So you're doing all of this. You're nonstop busy. You make one big point in your bio that you're also a mom and spouse, and you got a lot of family things that you, let's say, love doing probably even more, right? If
Absolutely.
not equally, I'll say equally just to be, you know, just to be politically correct, I guess, but probably more. So, one, how do you manage to do that? And two, do you have like hobbies that you sort of do when
No.
you just like
My
want to
hobbies
do?
have been on the back burner the last couple of years. So that is the one thing that I have to reintroduce into my life is kind of the balance, because I
Hmm.
give all to space and my daughter.
Hmm.
And Kenny has met my daughter. She is,
Yeah, she's
uh,
incredible. Just incredible.
How
yeah,
old is he?
she's 10. And
Oh,
you know what?
a little
She
one.
is, oh, she's fantastic. She has been listening to contracts. She loves redlining contracts. And she,
He's
Oh,
10 going
wow.
on what? What? She's 10 going on like
You have your chief finance
35.
officer.
oh,
You have your
yeah.
chief finance officer and
Yep.
general counsel already.
Oh, yeah. She looks
Oh, no
over
kidding.
everything. Yep. Not even
10
joking.
years old. Holy cow.
No, she's
So
she's a
what
toughie. She's super great.
what were your hobbies, the ones you put on the back burner?
Oh, I love boxing. I love exploring, traveling. You know, somebody said to my daughter, they said, "So, do you think your mom would love to go to the moon one day?" And she said, "My mom would just love to go to Hawaii just to get out of here."
Good answer.
Yeah, we've been working
Cute.
really hard on the mission, and now we'll just keep up the momentum and keep working. But I'll have to, actually schedule in some time for myself, and yeah,
That's fantastic. Well, thank you
Uh,
so much.
I thank you. I love talking about this opportunity. I think that it's still such a new experience, and it still is very unreal to me that we have officially landed on the moon. We just got our images back, and it's still quite incredible.
so
You,
incredible.
and by any chance, in some point in the future, will you be willing to come back and continue the discussion?
Absolutely,
That'd be
anytime.
amazing. Okay. Well, you can.
Yes,
The thing is, with me and Kenny, we actually
Yeah,
will hold you to that.
you can count on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
thank you,
Uh,
Chantelle. It was just
thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Really wonderful to have you. Thank you, Chantelle. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Wow. She is something else, man. She's fantastic.
I know.
She's
It's like,
absolutely fantastic.
and she's very humble. You should see the kind of reception. I was at the launch of the Falcon 9 that took this lunar lander and her payload, and um, the kind of reception she gets and the space that she creates for herself and the respect. Um, I mean, years of hard work and brilliance and making connections, but you can see just how passionate she is, and I think she leads with her passion. She has her intelligence and her perspectives and all that, but just like she said with that email she wrote to Intuitive Machines, like, okay, come on, what can we send? What can I send to the moon? Just fantastic. So
Amazing.
I'm glad she got to share that on the show.
And hopefully, we can, it's like it would be a good idea to like come back and I'm picking a number here, but 6 months and see where the program is.
Yeah,
And
and she can share what the payload is, and
yeah, well, if she can, when she's ready to share it, we're ready to hear it. I'll tell you that. I have my theory. It's something to do with agriculture, but
that's what I was thinking.
yeah, but I'm not sure exactly what. Maybe get her in touch with Zoho because Zoho has. They're actually got a farm where they're working on sustainable grain right now that won't fall for the problem that the Green Revolution had. That Norman Borlaug was this agronomist, I guess, or I don't know if he was an agricultural scientist, agronomist, whatever. But he developed a grain that was supposedly going to solve world hunger, and it produced enormous yields of rice. And this is in the 70s. And And it seemed to work, except that the way it produced enormous yields of rice was by completely depleting and destroying the soil, right? So
Yeah.
you got one big, huge load of rice, and it never could grow again, right?
Oh,
Nothing could grow on that soil anymore. So it was a disaster overall. And then, so Zoho is trying to figure out, how do we produce that one giant, huge amount of rice or whatever, and at the same time make sure the soil retains at least, and even sometimes maybe even improves its nutrients. And they're getting close to what might be an answer, it seems. So
well, Sridhar, obviously, Sridhar was on the show, right?
yeah,
A friend of
yeah,
the show. Zoho seems like they would have the right both business and, kind of cultural and environmental and social perspectives to take advantage of an opportunity they would do it in the right way and go to the moon.
yeah. I was going to say trans-astronomical localism instead of
Oh my God. Yeah.
trans-astronomical.
Yeah. Yeah. You should tell, yeah.
Trans-celestial localism.
Trans-celestial.
That's close.
Trans-celestial. Yeah.
localism.
Oh, there you go. Coined it here first.
That's right. We're
right.
providing the future of mankind, you and me, Kenny.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. EWPK.
That's right. Will be known. I see you're going to be chased out by somebody. Yeah. So, all right, sir. So I'm getting an idea that they probably are going to need this room. So your room there. So why don't we just say goodnight? What do you think?
I think it's great. What a great way to end. So, Paul, always a pleasure.
Same, my friend. And I'll see you long before a month, but we'll do another show in a month. We'll see you guys.
Can't wait for it.
All right. So I'll just take us out. Here we go.
All right. Good evening.
This has been a Players Productions Network digital broadcast. This has been a Players